Hi everybody, welcome to Sit Mean Sit Dog Train. I'd like to thank you, number one, for doing this video, and obviously what we're going to dive into is, you can see I got my notes, my 7 key questions, and joining me here is Mike Wheeler with Sit Mean Sit Madison. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of have a little conversation about this manual, because the idea of watching all this is to really kind of give you an enhanced knowledge and where these questions came from. I mean, these questions are about you learning what you need to ask and what you need to say so that you don't obviously get involved with bad trainers. If you have bad experiences with bad trainers, it's going to really eliminate you on wanting to get trained altogether, because obviously your first experience with something kind of sets a tone for everything. So we want to make sure that you ask the correct questions. The biggest thing now is knowing why are we going to ask those questions, and that's really going to help you through all this stuff. So welcome, Mike. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Driving the whole almost 2 hours is it to get here? Not too bad. So what we're going to start off with, we're going to dive right in the manual. So if you want to, go ahead and open your manual if you have it, obviously. And the first and most important question is something obviously that a lot of people are going to be like, who's this Fred Hassett guy? It says, have you ever studied or been taught the concepts of Sit Mean Sit training system as taught by Fred Hassett? And obviously the most important question is, why is that even important? Who is this guy?
Well, it's really important, just in the fact that Fred has personally changed dog training in a huge way. There's so many people that know of Fred's name, and just like anything that's spectacular, there's going to be good and bad out there on the internet. But Fred has absolutely changed the direction of training and being able to get huge results in a very short period of time, more than anybody else in history combined.
Absolutely. So would you say, as far as what Fred's done, how has it helped you even in your training? Because obviously you were training long before Sit Mean Sit was around. So how did it influence you as far as Fred Hassett's techniques as you joined into the Sit Mean Sit system?
Well, I started professionally training in 2004 with my previous business of Centex Canine Academy. And, I was pretty cocky, real good trainer, and real good trainer, and had some good trainers on board, and I know that we always got really good results. But once we joined forces with Sit Mean Sit, I saw a huge shift in even thinking and training and everything else, and just being able to get way better results than I had ever dreamed possible. And it was just being able to have that support system. It was being able to have the number of continued education opportunities that we have. But more importantly, it really helped for me to shift my thinking to have even more tools in the bag than just a clicker or a leash and a collar. That's kind of what it did for me.
Yeah, I would say for any of you who haven't seen it yet, Fred's got over 1,100 YouTube videos. All right, and that's kind of where we come from, is that we had seen a lot of his videos, and that's really what got us perked on it. And as far as what Fred has definitely taught us and a lot of people is just to have an open mind. And that's probably one of the hardest things as you get into the dog training world, is to have an open mind about what's important and what can be used, because you mentioned tools in a toolbox, and everybody thinks there's a one way. There's only one way to do this, and that's it. And truth be told, there's a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go on to question number 2. So, go ahead and turn your page, look at your manual. Do you have a clear plan for increasing your knowledge in dog training as a whole to include canine lifestyle training? This one's kind of a loaded question, so let's go ahead and start with the first one. What was your plan for increasing knowledge, and what is it you continue to do to make sure that you're always acquiring more knowledge?
Well, first off, I watch a lot of videos. I do a lot of my own research, but kind of going back into the first question is, Sit Mean Sit has, by far, to me anyways, has by far the most amount of resources that we can have to continue getting education. So, being able to have more research and development, but being able to have it from a multitude of different trainers throughout the nation, throughout the world actually, like we do with Sit Mean Sit.
Okay, and for those of you who are wondering what he's talking about as far as other trainers that we have, currently right now we hold world records in even fun sports, by the way, like dogs and getting into agility and fly ball and all those other things, but we also have a lot of title holders even getting into serious sports, for instance, Mondio Ring, Schützen, which is now known as IPO, even getting into the hunting world. So what he's saying is that there's a talent across the nation as far as what we can accomplish, and that's where we really get to pull our skills from, and our diverse skill set is there. So the important thing for everybody else to know is when you ask these questions, where is their knowledge coming from? You want to make sure that when you talk with somebody, their knowledge is coming from a place that they get continued education. It's not more of the same thing. Obviously, when you build a house, you need multiple sets of tools. No different here. On to question 3. What do you do to make sure you have access to the latest trends in training to see what top professionals are doing and what is truly effective for everyday families? Getting back to this loaded question thing again, sorry. But I mean, that is important, isn't it? What is it that we do here at Sit Means Sit that helps with everyday families, and what should they be looking for to make sure that they're involved with a trainer that really helps with everyday families?
Well, it comes back down to like what I had said a minute ago. It comes down to the research, the development, and it is coming down to even that hunting training sure does help in everyday training. Mondio ring, the protection sports, all of that can coincide with normal obedience, because whereas we might think, well, it's different. My dog is different. It's not any different. They're a dog. However, we constantly evolve in training, just like in technology, just like in anything else. We're constantly evolving, so we have to keep up with the trends. And every application of training can help us in our everyday life as well.
Good. And the big thing, especially for us, and the reason we really talk about families, and that's definitely a point Mike's hitting here, is make sure that you're dealing with somebody who deals with families. You can have all this broad spectrum information, but you have to make sure that your dog is part of your family. Absolutely. And if you're not training with somebody who's dealing with part of your family, exactly. Well, what are you trying to do?
And the whole family needs to be able to control the dog. It's not like back in the old school days where it's just one person can control the dog and dad is alpha and he's the only one that can control Fluffy. We have it where 4-year-olds are controlling dogs because of the way we train. We want the family involved. That is the biggest part, because our dogs are part of our family.
Well, and even with children, I mean, you're not pulling out one child at a time to show them a little bit of affection and then sending them back to the room. You become involved with the family as a whole, so that's super important.
Exactly.
Question number 4, do you have a solid grasp not only of dog training, but of how these techniques to fit into our overall lifestyle? And this kind of goes back to what we were discussing in that, having these skill sets, but then making sure that just because you're highly skilled, doesn't mean that you forget about the family stuff. So here's what I mean by this question, and where we're really going as far as answering it, for everybody, is that just because somebody's a hunting trainer, does that necessarily make them a good trainer for everybody else? Or just because somebody does some protection, does that mean that person is certified to train any dog on the face of the earth? And the biggest question is, why or why not?
Right. Well, and the thing is, it's a specialized field. Would you have a brain surgeon working on your heart? Probably not. Okay? You're not going to get the correct results. What it comes down to is we specialize in training with families in everyday life situations so we can get optimal results. We want the mistakes. We want you to train your dog while mowing your lawn, because that's everyday life. We're not going to have a perfect environment, sterile environment every time we go to train our dogs. Like you kind of said, it comes down to, a hunting trainer or a protection trainer. I've heard people say before, he trains the police dogs at the police department. Well, is he going to give you the perfect sit, or is he going to make sure that your dog is working properly in your family? Probably not, because police dogs are not a part of the family typically. They're working dogs. So there's a different shift in the training.
Yeah, there's a different mentality that they're always going to bring to the table.
Absolutely.
And one of the things, even from my experience that I've seen, now let's all go back up and preface it. Does that mean that they're bad trainers? Well, of course not. And that's not what this is about. This is about saying that you make sure you get the correct qualifications for you and your family versus trying to say, oh, well, this other qualification will make them fit. No, it's got to be about you and your family. That's probably one of the biggest things that all these questions are out to teach you, that you need to make sure that you're looking something for your family, because guess what? This dog's been around for another 10, 15 years. If it's not a mesh with you and your family and you have problems, that's going to make a strain on you and your family for the next 10 to 15 years. Which is why it's so important you make sure and set those goals, that you're dealing with somebody who knows how to reach the goals as far as you and your family are concerned.
Well, and even with that though, we've had people that'll come to us with a dog that's 10, 11, 12 years old, and even at that, the dog might pass away in 5 years, and I've had people come back to me and they said, hey, I just want to let you know that those last few years were the best years with Fluffy or whomever, because it has shifted. And then they start with us with a new puppy, because it's like, oh, well, duh, this is the perfect fit.
Oh yeah, that's the big thing I think people forget about training, is that training's ultimately meant to set you up for a lifestyle. And
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't know the norm. To a lot of people, because they don't train, the norm is to sneak out your door like a criminal, or you get them right by the door and then stay, right? All this crazy nonsense. And I'm sure you've experienced it yourself. And that's really not the normal. The normal is that I can open my door and it's not a problem, because just like a child, if your child would happen to go outside, you're not freaked out about, hey, Billy, get back in the house. Hey, Gina, get back in the house.
Exactly.
And it's one of those things that's the same way it should be with our dogs. And that's really what training's about, is just setting those rules and boundaries so you do whatever you want to do.
I had a client the other week, she was like, yeah, I have everybody text before they come over and come in the door, because they just walk in, because that way I can put the dog up. And I'm like, well, that makes no sense. Why do that? Let's fix the problem.
Now, he's giving you a little bonus content. We're actually going to come back to another CD if you want to check it out. It's called Intro to Canine Lifestyle Training. And he's actually going to really him and I both are going to sit down and start really diving into the concepts of what canine lifestyle training is and kind of how to apply it. So thanks for that. You give them a little extra something. I'm sure they appreciate it. Question number 5. Who do you rely on for feedback on your training techniques? Do you have someone you can trust to give you clear and useful criticism? This by far is probably the Achilles heel of everybody. Everybody goes to their mom and to their dad, and they see the dog, and oh, the dog's so well trained. I have a little story that I was talking about my dog Cato, and he'd give me high fives, and he could roll over, and I said, that's all great, fine, and dandy till the first time I opened the door, and he was, off for his 2-mile run. What I'm getting at is that everybody saw Cato, my family and friends was always like, oh, he's such a good boy. But in retrospect, was he? Well, he didn't listen to the basic stuff. So what we really want to find out, Mike, is who you get your criticism from, and why criticism, if constructive, is so important for everybody, not even just us as trainers.
Right. Well, it's for our clients, it's being able to come to us. Okay? Being able to come to us for anything at any point in time, we're going to help them out. For us as trainers with Sit Means Sit, we actually have the ability to go to the CEO, the president, the vice president. What other company allows you to just have their cell phone and call them at any point in time that you need? None that I know of. But not only that, we have so many other trainers across the nation. And it's all like a brotherhood or a sisterhood. It allows for us to be able to get in contact with any of them. Hey, you know what? I'm having this issue. I talk regularly with the CEO, okay? And whether it be just for criticism or ideas or hey, this is what we're doing, and he kind of puts his own little shift on things. And I think that is I think it's priceless.
Absolutely. So you can see, obviously, the biggest thing is Who are we getting our criticism from? We're getting our criticism from a guy who's got top accolades working all over the world, quite literally. It was a seminar in Mexico and Brazil just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely about having somebody that will help you along, give you new and fresh ideas, which is, you know, what Mike was just addressing. But in the same light, it's the person that will come up and say, hey, knucklehead, you're doing something really stupid right now. Don't be stupid. Or you need to fix this. And that, to me, you need to have that balance in criticism.
Or here, try this.
Absolutely. You gotta, that's the only way you expand and learn new things, is you have to be open-minded to both sides of criticism. And what we're, once again, what we're getting at is, we're talking about us as a whole and kind of how we work, so that you get an idea for how a good functioning company should work and a good ethical company in dog training should work, so you understand, hey, there needs to be some kind of balance for criticism. As I've often said, the years of experience to me means little to nothing. And here's why. Well, no, seriously.
Exactly.
Somebody came out once, because I'm a rather young guy, I'm just under 30, and somebody says, well, I've been training longer than you've been alive. And I just made the joke, well, you can train for a lot of time. It doesn't make you any good. It just means you've been training for a long time. You know, where's the results? Where's this? Where's that? So take those things into light, that experience, while nice, it should be a very, very small portion of the pie. It should be about who's critiquing you over those 20 years. If you have somebody who's, very, very good and they're critiquing you over those 20 years, well, that means a heck of a lot more than just saying, well, I've been doing it for 20 years. So anyway, getting into question 6. Do you have reliable systems in place to track progress and continue progress even when I'm done it? And this boils down to one horribly awful word that nobody likes to hear, but guess what? We obviously need to go there, and that's homework. Exactly. So do people have homework, and how do you set up homework? Because a lot of people, when they understand homework, it's just one thing for everybody, and a lot of people don't understand the customization. Right. So talk a little bit about homework and customization, how they should have stuff in place to track that.
Absolutely. Well, and for us anyways, we do have a lot of homework, but it's all based upon the clientele's needs. It's not going to be, oh, well, you need to sit your dog 50 times this week. It's, hey, well, we're going to work on what's important and what's a necessity for you, and here's your homework, here's what you're going to do. Not only that, but we're showing them, and we're making sure that they understand it before we end a lesson, because we want them to be successful, because they're the ones that are bragging about us.
Oh, and he hits a real key point there, is that everybody out there, they're our resume. That's how we do it. And it's the same with any trainer out there. The dog is their resume. That's why it's always so important to us to even do things like this. Now, one thing I will hit, we're going to kind of, once again, we're going to give you a little bonus content. When we talk about homework systems and stuff like that, we're going to actually have Mike break something down for you so that you have a thought process. And this is getting more into the canine lifestyle training stuff in that intro seating. So let's give an example. You go to a family, the dog is doing a lot of jumping on people at the door. Right. So tell me, one, how you would have them fix it, but two, what's their homework to make sure that stays fixed?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do for that. But one really simple answer is, well, we can place them. So we can create the doorbell as or a knock as a command. So they hear that, and the dog needs to get on the place. So
let's jump in real quick. What is a place for those of you who don't know?
Absolutely. Well, a place is basically asking a dog to get on an object, a specific object that we designate, so they have to stay there. It's a boundary. So it's like a kennel without walls. So essentially they should stay there regardless of any situation. So if I throw food or whatever happens, same thing with the dinner table. If I want my dog to not beg, I can place them. It's kind of lazy in a sense that I can just do that, but at the same time, it helps for the dog to control their energy. That's the big thing. All the problems that we have are all developed around energy, barking, jumping, biting, whatever. That's all energy. It's how we need to control it. So we can place them, and again, we can create a doorbell or a knock as a command.
So what you're saying is that you would have the doorbell or the knock happen, and that would be their command or their cue to go on the place board and just wait there until you would get somebody in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just one way. But then we also need to test them. We need to put things into place. Again, like I was saying, throw food on the floor or whatever. We can do different things to kind of tempt them and test them to see if they're going to get up. So now I can just go open the door on my own to see if, well, Fluffy stayed there, so that's good.
Okay, and by the way, I hope you wrote all that stuff down. We have something in the business we call writer-downers. That was a writer-downer.
Absolutely.
That was a lot of information all at once, and I hope you got all that, because if from that one explanation he gave you a huge part of our thought process. And that's a huge part of training. So make sure you go back. If you have to rewind that, come back to it, write all that stuff down he just said, make sure to do it. Now, one thing you did hit, and I really love that you brought this up, notice he didn't say it was the only way. It was one way. Okay, there's a lot of different ways to deal with things, and the biggest thing is, once again, we're getting back to customization. And obviously the homework then for them, make sure to do it.
Well, so homework can be pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have more friends over. Order out more this week, So it seems silly, but well, if I do that, I have an opportunity to fix it. That's the whole thing with canine lifestyle training, is it's training around our lifestyles. Not our lifestyles, but your lifestyles. Because my lifestyle is way different than yours is, and yours is way different than mine.
Yeah.
So it's training around that, not just in a sterile environment, like I said before.
Absolutely. So yes, homework, just so you know, that's important. Somebody doesn't have it for you, they obviously don't care about your success, because that is what homework's about altogether. When you sit down, you write your quizzes, in school, mind you, and you do all these tests, what's the point? To make sure you understand the information. So that's why we do have homework for you, and the stuff that Mike just got into, which is priceless by the way, is how do we test that they know that information. And that's going to get into some more stuff later. We'll go ahead and just move on to the next question. We don't want to take too long of your time. So question number 7, the very last one. Now this right here is the meat and potatoes behind everything. To me, it is the only thing that really matters, which is, what will you do if it takes more time than you said it would, and how will you fix new problems if they should arise? I've had so many people come to me, even personally, I'm sure you've had the same thing, that they're sitting there and they're going, well, this problem came up, and why didn't they go back to the dog trainer if everything was fine? And me personally, it's kind of like, well, doesn't that seem like it sets off some alarms? So back to the question, what would you do, what do you do about it so that they have an example of what a good dog trainer is supposed to do?
Well, the big thing with us is, it's continued education. All of our clients have access to us at any given point for the life of the dog. So it's our lifetime guarantee in essence. So if someone has an issue that arises because they started training the dog as a puppy and now all of a sudden it becomes aggressive or fearful or whatever because of something, or just life happens, or they have a baby. Okay, great. Well, we're going to fix that. We're going to help them fix it. In any situation, we're going to help them fix it. We want, just like you said earlier, our dogs are our resumes, or your dogs are our resume. So what we want is we want to make sure that everybody's satisfied, and by continuing that education with that lifetime guarantee, there's nothing out there that can match that.
Now, I know what you're talking about, but I'm just going to make sure and clarify for you. How much does that cost?
That's all included. That's the big thing, that's included. It's not something that you pay extra for, it's included in our system, because we want every dog to be able to have their personal trainer for life.
Okay, so you get what he's saying through all this. He's basically saying that as part of signing up with us at our guarantee program, and there's plenty of other people that do it, we're standing behind what we do. You can come back to us at any point and get stuff done for free. That's why I reiterate, there's plenty of trainers out there that do it, right? And why? Well, that's how you should stand behind anything. I've seen it, even when I go to buy stuff, these 7 questions are not something just for dog training. These 7 questions, you can basically turn around and apply it to anything that you do in life. And that's the idea. These 7 questions are about making sure that you get value out of what you're purchasing, because let's face it, dog training is not cheap.
No.
It never has been. But it's very necessary. It's very, very necessary part of the life because not everybody knows how to talk to a dog. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a job. There wouldn't be so much of this stuff going around. So what we're really getting at is make sure when you sit down and talk with somebody, they have some type of backup system, that they're going to stand behind what they do and make sure that it suits you. Okay? Because you can't just go out there, try something and be like, well, it didn't work, well, now you need to pay. Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, let me actually bring it to this sense, right? Just like us being a part of Sit Means Sit, you and I as trainers, as our companies and everything, we are in a family. That's the same thing that our clients have with us. They are our family. We take care of family. That's what it boils down to for me. So I'm going to treat them that way. A good family. Right? So
yeah, I'll always keep part there.
Ones you like. I want my family to succeed. That's why our clients succeed so much and so well. Everything boils down to the fact that they are family and we are going to take care of them no matter what.
Awesome. So that is really getting into what these 7 key questions are about.